like to talk about before the end of this podcast is because this is something I'm interested in. I've done a little bit of research on it, but actually, because you'll hit plateaus even on a ketogenic diet. You'll hit a plateau where you're not burning as much and you're not really losing any weight and you're kind of stuck. And so
on what?
Talk about, yes. I mean, even though they're not converting back to fat, like the ketones still going through your bloodstream, you can in a way plateau and not lose as much as you want unless you can do carb cycling, like a carb cycle on a ketogenic diet, even though you're not really consuming starches. I know you can consume Pedialyte, like you said, and slowly introduce into that, but would you talk a little bit about that?
So the goal of a cyclic ketogenic is to stimulate your metabolism again, probably your thyroid hormones and everything else that needs a jump start on that, and to promote a anabolic environment so you don't lose too much lean body mass. So I think the goal of a cyclic ketogenic diet is to be in ketosis as fast as possible, burn a ton of fat, stimulate your GLUT4 enzymes in your muscle. You know, there's GLUT3, GLUT2, GLUT1 enzymes at different organs that help store glucose as a glycogen and transport other things. But start eating carbohydrates again for a limited amount of time. It's only like a 24-hour or 48-hour period. You eat carbohydrates. You start with super simple carbs, liquid carbs, then you go to soft carbohydrates like mashed potatoes, and you go to harder carbohydrates like low glycemic.
And then boom, you just go back?
And then you go right back. And then you go right back and try to get into ketosis as fast as you can. And it's kind of like intermittent fasting as far as the length of the phases of being in ketosis versus carbon up. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. There's all different kinds. There's like a targeted ketogenic diet. There's a cyclic ketogenic diet. There's all kinds of different things. The Lyle McDonald guy's like an expert on it. Like he did his whole thesis on cyclic ketogenic diets. His book's insane.
That's something you think would be very hard too, because if just like I was talking about drugs, I mean, or alcohol, if you're cycling that and say after 10 days you reintroduce carbs for a 24-hour period, well, your brain's like, oh my God, so you could relapse terribly.
Well,
so it takes extreme discipline, I would think.
To me, it says like everything has phases. Like we talk about, we always talk about the duality of everything, the positive and negative of everything. To me, it's kind of mimicking, because if you think about intermittent fasting, and then you think about like exercise is infrequent intermittent exercise. So you're talking about like way back in the day, like whatever, if you want to say Paleolithic or whatever, like whatever period, we probably went without food for a long period of time, and when you had food, you ate a shitload of it because so your body's adapted to that. So you have homeostatic mechanisms that adapt to everything you're doing. So when you're doing ketosis and you hit a plateau, it's adapted to that.
Yes.
Yeah. So to get over the adaptation, you change it.
But that's with everything. I mean, even working out, a lot of people think, if I run 5 miles at the gym every day, your body's going to adapt to that. So you have to continually change what you're doing to trick your body into getting, where you want to do fitness-wise. That's just fitness. But it's not
cycles. The cycle. I mean, the fucking, the weather cycles. The fucking everything. There's cycles and everything. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's just. You can switch, and it's funny because they do it with diets too. Like we were talking about low-fat, high-carbohydrate diets. Oh no, now it's high-fat, low-carb diets. Oh no, now it's high-protein. Well, that's just because everybody's cycling and they don't realize it. Well, hey, you know what? This South Beach diet was great, but when I switched to the Zone, it really worked. And then that quit working. And then when I switched to Atkins, that really worked. Well, no shit, numbnuts. You're cycling different types of diets, and that's what's happening with everybody on a larger scale, and they just don't get that. That's
they don't understand it.
Every diet. I actually have made a program where it's you start with you do each type of diet. You do like an Atkins type diet, only not meat based, and then you do like a zone type diet, and then you do a high carbohydrate, low fat diet. So you start high fat, low carbs. You do moderation of everything. Then you do high carbs, low fat, and then at the same time, the training that you go through is high volume, and it increases in intensity as you increase your carbohydrate amount, and the time under tension increases too. So like everything, if you base everything around cycles, like they do with agriculture, and they do everything, they base everything on cycles, on how the earth rotates and what season we're in and all that stuff. Like, you probably someday somebody will come up with a diet based on that.
Yeah.
Cycles.
Well, this podcast is a little bit, it's pretty lengthy, but in conclusion, you know, ketogenic diets may not be for everyone. I'm not saying it's my favorite by any means. I'm just talking about it right now because we're actually on it. We're trying it, you know, for now, and it feel great, you know. Not as hungry all the time. Miss carbs, yeah, but overall it's good. I'm seeing a difference in my body in health. Like, I feel different, feel great. Did go through the keto flu, that sucked, but overall, all in all, I think it's a good diet to try at least once in your lifetime. If you want to drop some pounds or whatever it is you want to do, try it. You might like it. You might not go back to the American diet. I don't know. Chris, you want to add anything?
Any change that you have in your life, whether it's diet, whether it's career, whether it's changing where you live, is going to come with some growing pains. And as long as you can go through those, you will get the benefits of whatever it has to offer. And when those end, you change again.
All right. Thanks, Chris. We'll come to you guys next week with another podcast. Thank you.